Can you hear me now?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's show, The Real Estate Rundown. Want to thank everybody for patiently hanging out with us as we figured out how to go live and do things a little bit differently now. So I want to welcome one of our guests here and commercial developer. His name's Ben Sims. He's been a good friend of mine for a long time and worked together on some projects a while back. And so wanted to bring him on and share some knowledge with everyone about the commercial industry, how things are going, what things look like in that world. So everybody, welcome Ben.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate you having me on and excited for the opportunity.
You're still muted there, Ben.
Can you hear me now? Technical difficulties. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Having a little bit of technical difficulty here.
Robert, can you hear me?
There we are. I can hear you now.
There we go. A little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, yeah,
Robert, thanks for having me on and looking forward to the conversation.
yeah, yeah. So, share a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do and things like that, and then we'll kind of dive into our conversation and share some information.
Sure. Creed is a development services company. We work kind of across the board through commercial and industrial development services. We saw a niche back, we were in October 14th of this year, will be our 10th year. And we started back when we saw a need, and we're kind of in a niche. We are, a real estate team, a brokerage team, but our focus is on development services. We call it from conception to keys. We saw a major need for what we do in the industry back 12 years ago or so. It's helping large brands or franchisees or operators grow on the development side. A lot of major brands, they'll give them a certain opportunity to grow a brand, and they require experience in operations for whatever that is, whether you're in hospitality or food and beverage retail. They require those operators to have that experience, but they don't require them to have development experience. So they may make a certain commitment for a certain number of stores over so many years, but they don't know how to navigate the development process. So Creed is a development services company, fractional development services, and we can handle anything from site selection, market planning, real estate, design management, and construction management.
Very cool. Very cool. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the climate. Everybody talks about, oh my gosh, interest rates, oh my gosh, this, oh my gosh, that. How's real estate? How's businesses? How's what? Just all the oh my goshes, right? So talk to us a little bit about what do you see thriving in today's climate? Speaking of brands and things like that, what does it look like to you?
It's difficult, and if you don't get out and explore and look at certain things, it's doom and gloom, right? It's things aren't growing. Nobody can get loans, or nobody wants a loan because the interest rates are so high. It's doom and gloom unless you get out and look and start paying attention to things. Um, this is exciting times, depending on what brand you're with or who you're growing or who you're representing on the real estate side. Our company, we've spent the last several years trying to get diversified for the cases we're currently dealing with, right? It's what do you do in the 2008s to survive? What do you do in the 2024s to survive? And you got to keep your eyes wide open and get out and explore, dig into any and all of the news that you can. Restaurant news is a great resource. ICSC, which we're headed there here in about 2 weeks. ICSC is the largest or second largest convention in Vegas, and it's focused on our industry, on the real estate development construction side. Any and everybody will be there, and you'll notice during those events, those large events, and when you read articles, there are certain brands that absolutely thrive on conditions like we're in. You can't sit back and doom and gloom and feel sorry for yourself. You got to hustle, and we're diversifying. That's the name of the game right now, is get with those brands or get with those operators that need to grow, no matter of the condition. It's one of those things, you kind of lean on one foot during some climates, and then in climates like this you need to lean on the other foot because there are major brands growing.
Sure, sure. Well, you kind of alluded to it. You talked about, you got to get out there and hustle. You know, Obviously brands are having to adapt to today's facets to live. It's not just as easy as put a sign in the yard and we've got an open business. I mean, there's a lot of adapting to be had and done from the development side of things. How has that changed? Just in the last months and compared to the last years for your team.
It's so we do a lot of work for landowners. We come in and help master plan their property. Whether it's 20 acres or 100 acres, we'll help master plan that. And if you look at the cycle that we're currently in, based on 3 or 4 years ago with the same property, amazing opportunities, things are flourishing. We installed $2.2 million of improvements to put in roadways, water, sewer. Um, we were setting the stage for this landowner to get the best yield out of his property. And it was a lot easier in certain conditions. Rewind 3 years ago. You had a lot of focus, and a lot of major brands, grocery, for instance, they're looking at where's the residents, where's the rooftops. A lot of larger brands, they focus on rooftops, they focus on traffic count. The traffic's still there. The homes in these, even out into the secondary markets, we're not talking primary markets, we're talking secondary markets, are still growing. It's, COVID pushed everybody to the edge. They got out of major cities. They didn't want to live downtown. Neighborhoods got inundated. You couldn't find homes. Everything with COVID changed a lot of things, and we're still dealing with it. Some of it positive, some of it negative, but that same piece of land, we've had to adapt to how we market it. We get those instigators, those brands that make other brands comfortable. We focus on the brands that can create kind of the nucleus and grow from there. McDonald's, for instance, I've been internal with McDonald's for many years. They're still one of our clients. McDonald's, for instance, a lot of major brands watch McDonald's. If McDonald's, Chick-fil-A's of the world can come in, that's when you got it. And everybody else will start trailing them. So you got to get very creative. Back in the day, we were more focused on big box retail, grocery. How can we grow the back end and grow towards the right of way? We've changed strategy. It's get those nucleus companies in that can help, instigate growth around it that makes other brands comfortable. So you got to think outside the box.
For sure. And I know in the meetings and conversations that I've had with you and your team, and bringing businesses to the Panhandle up here, I know that's kind of been one of the major hitters. Is like, hey, let's look at those brands. Who's around? What's going on? What the traffic counts, and it's not just as easy as, hey, I'm going to put a business here today. I mean, we've here locally, we've got a United that's has started to plant its roots. And gosh, I remember 15, 20 years ago, my parents were looking at buying a house in a specific neighborhood, and that was the talk then. And here we are, 15, 20 years later, they're finally broken ground to
Right.
build that store.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes time. We sat there. I'm in Houston, born and raised in Borger, so the Panhandle is near and dear to my heart. Any and every opportunity I get, I try to grow in the Panhandle. Our staff loves to be there, and we've been very successful at it. But we watch it here in Houston. HEB, for instance, HEB may go in and land bank property for 4 or 5 years because they know it's growing. They know the neighborhoods are going to be there. They wait for a certain threshold of neighborhoods to be established prior to them going in.
Sure.
And then they have a wake of major brands behind them that'll follow.
For sure. For sure. Kind of switching gears a little bit, big thing you see is multi-tenant retail. Folks looking for investments and safe investments to where they can have that long-term investment and goal in mind. What does that look like in your neck of the woods? I mean, do you think that it's a good safe investment, or is it pretty hard right now, in, long-term, or excuse me, multi-tenant?
We're seeing it's a little bit different, and we just put together a pro forma last week for a property that we're in control of. We have an investor that wants to build, mixed use multi-tenant retail. We even approached it, let's start smaller scale, 10,000 square feet, see where we go from there. We know major brands want to be in this area. And if you go back about a month ago, one of the largest brokers in the Dallas area had kind of a similar thing, a webinar or a podcast. He was talking about there's so much demand in the Dallas-Fort Worth market where the major brands can't get in. There's no opportunities. Everything's maxed out. You can't find vacancies. There is a huge need for mixed-use retail. The problem is the interest rates. We have, case in point, we are in control of property. We got water and sewer access there. The stage is set. We have an investor that wants to invest in it. Texas being Texas, our construction cost has never gone down. No matter where you're at in the nation, our construction cost has never gone down. All of our contractors are busy. They're not hurting for work. And based on what happened in COVID, certain prices went up. Lumber, steel, sometimes steel's hard to get. So there's a lot of conditions, but right now the climate's very good for our side for mixed-use retail. The problem is the interest rates. So you go back and look at it, we know based on comps what these major brands can pay within that given region. And you start putting the numbers together, it doesn't make sense. Kind of transitioning to that, there's not a whole lot of opportunity right now for short-term investors. If you're a short-term investor, now's not your time. Long-term, those investors that have a significant amount of wealth that's built up, now's the time they would use it. And we have a Starbucks in process right now, and that Starbucks is one of those things. Is our investors know it's a long-term hold. It's a 15-year lease, and he's just going to. That's fine, you can do that, but it really cuts down on opportunities for investors, the short-term, triple net kind of investors.
For sure. I know in some of the projects that I've worked hand in hand with you and your team on, locating land and all those things, it's in some challenges have been presented in some of those bigger markets, just like you said, vacancies are nothing virtually, and finding people who are willing to turn loose is also difficult in some sense too. So those you mentioned, those who have buy and hold, those folks are still holding.
Yeah, that's it. You may hold it for a while. We don't know at this time.
For sure. Huge drives. What do you see that are big drivers right now?
Drivers right now, in my opinion, is adaptation. You've got to adapt and overcome. I tell that all the way to my kids. They'll come in and complain about something. I'm like, adapt and overcome. Everybody has to do it, no matter what. You have to accept change. Accept change, and harness that things will always change, and how to overcome. You go back and look at it. Early in my career, I couldn't stand it because I was not in the banking industry. And banks could overpay for a corner, outposition us. We could not get what we need because a bank would be there. So never in my life would I thought banks would go for sale. And so there's opportunities. You have to hunt for them. We have, just in our area, South Houston, there's banks closing left and right. I don't like seeing it at all. And honestly, it's frustrating when you try to go to a bank and talk to a person, but it's the climate, right? It's adapt and overcome, but we've demolished 3 banks in the last 4 months. So there are opportunities you can create and try to get that client that you need into those difficult areas. High volume, high visibility. It works well when you can adapt.
For sure.
One of the things that we've really harnessed, we consult a lot of major brands, regional brands. We have a regional brand that we grow out of San Antonio. On that consulting side, this went back to conversations prior to COVID. We had one restaurant group out of the Houston area It was operations guys within a very prominent fine dining brand that had been successful, went out on their own, and they'd come in and asked us to consult. And one of those things is you have this amazing restaurant. Can you hit all day parts? Are you thinking outside of the box and adapting? Why aren't you open for breakfast? And we had that conversation. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're a Southern seafood brand. Why aren't you selling beignets and coffee? It's adapt and overcome. Next thing you know, they have a restaurant, an entire menu for breakfast. They're catering to the major businesses around them, beignets and coffee. It's different, right? It's not donuts. It's not kolaches. It's something different. And these large companies, they strive for something different to put on a conference room table. The other thing is we're huge believers in one of the CEOs back years ago. He had come into Dunkin' Brands, Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins, and I was sitting in a venue with him speaking, and he made the analogy is we need to adapt and overcome like an airport. And it really hit home. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you have to adapt your businesses to overcome just like an airport would. You may have the older couple that needs help getting their bags out of the car and getting to the ticket area and checking the bags and then helping them to security, right? There's those customers you have to cater to them. Then you have the businessman that goes through there, never talks to anybody, goes through TSA, flies through security, doesn't talk to anybody, he may be in a conference call. You need to adapt to that to get him through quick because he might be running from a meeting trying to catch his plane. You need to cater to those ones in between. Cater to the ones that like to go in, but they don't trust their phone, so they want to print out their boarding pass. That's fine. Cater to them as well. Have that area where you can walk in and get your boarding pass and go through. So adapt and overcome in my mind means you got to think outside the box. If you're a restaurant and you've only been doing, maybe a bar and grill, you need to consider drive-through. There's a lot of business that it's for those families that don't have time, that want to run through, but they don't want a bag meal. They want something good. They want barbecue, but they don't want to go in, or their kids in the back seat. They don't want to pull them out of the car. You need that other outlet to serve. So in my opinion, thinking outside the box is what you have to do. Chick-fil-A is one of the best in class at it. It's throughput. They don't want anybody to see lines stacked out to the street, even though most of them are. It's 2 lanes. They're pushing them through as quick as they can. When you pull up there, you're more likely to go because you're going to be in and out of there in about 4 minutes, even though the line's to the street. They're doing that during peak times with handheld order takers. They're not making you go through the menu. Most people know what their menu is. So they already know what they want to eat. They walk up. That kitchen has a longer period of time to deliver that food because the order was taken at the street almost in some situations, or in the parking lot. That's adapting and overcoming. So it doesn't matter what you look at, how can I best fit my customer? How do I think outside the box? And it's in all climates. It's just not now. So
Yeah, you talking about adapting and overcoming. We've a local Chick-fil-A here. I mean, they've done a week-long project, and I drove by the other day, and their entire parking lot's destroyed right now. And so that they're making some changes to better serve customers, keep customers coming there, and keeping that as smooth as possible.
we have a gas and convenience client out in Nebraska, and they're doing that very thing. What can we do to adapt and overcome? One of the things that we're helping them do, it's on the grocery side. There's a big need for convenience, but there's a lot of tertiary markets that may have fuel. They may have some convenience, but if they're driving over 20 to 30 minutes to a grocery store, let's serve them, grab and go, or you can grab a prepared meal, but salads, sandwiches, give them something more than what people know convenience stores are. Those gas and convenience clients that are having those prepared meals, the healthy meals, their sales will go through the roof because the fuel's one thing, and there's margins on fuel. Sometimes it's better than other times, but that inside sales is super critical. If you can find another way to provide a convenience, Quick Trip is one of the best, in class, doing that. And you can get a lot of bang out of your buck stopping one time and getting your fuel, getting your food, getting your beverage, using the restroom, and you're back in your car and headed to work. There's ways to do it, but even those 50-year-old brands, we're helping them adapt currently.
Sure. Well, are there any specific areas of practice that you guys practice in, or are you guys kind of pretty limber in that area? Meaning, do you do specifically C-store? Do you do more car wash? Or do you just kind of do a little bit of everything?
We are a young company. We have 7 people on staff, and we're being young and small. We have to run at everything. The only thing we're currently not doing is single family residential, even though we have opportunities that we take to some of our partners to grow that side. We handle everything from automotive service, automotive maintenance, truck maintenance, restaurants, gas and convenience. We've got major projects within biomedical. We've done 2 major biomedical projects in the Houston area over the last 8 years, and have another one coming up. The biotech industry is not ever going to slow down. It's an amazing industry to watch, and the growth is there. We also are in distribution, significant push for distribution in e-commerce areas. We were sitting down in the headquarters of one of the largest automotive parts group last week, and in this climate, with COVID, you couldn't find cars because chips and so forth. That they're the largest automotive parts group. They were at 150 stores on average annually, and they've now doubled it. So they're out there scrambling for teams like ours to influence and kind of amplify their development team. They're leaning on us as an outsourced development department to help them in those areas where they have to grow twice as much as they're used to. So,
sure. Wow, that very valuable information. For not only for ourselves as real estate professionals, but for folks who are interested in investing in the commercial world. It may not be as easy as just buying a house and putting a renter in it, so to speak. So those who have interest in buying commercial property and investing in it, and maybe being behind the scenes, that's kind of an interesting take for folks to really look at. So we definitely appreciate you stopping in with us and sharing what you see and your experiences, and being a wealth of knowledge for all of us.
No, absolutely. It's out there. It's not doom and gloom. There's still a lot of opportunities. You got to go out and grab it. We did a site ride, my business partner and I, last week, drove 1,400 miles across 7 or so states. And we were targeting site selection for one of our investors. And it's amazing on what you see. These other areas, it's very similar. You go to Amarillo, Texas, and you go to Louisville, very similar aspects. There's growth on edges. Buc-ee's, believe it or not, it's kind of, I live about 30 miles from where Buc-ee's was founded. Their headquarters is 10 miles from me, but we have small Buc-ee's, so we're blessed here. But it's exciting getting to see that really cool brand growing in other areas. Amarillo getting one, but we passed 2 Buc-ee's in construction and on our 1,400-mile trip last week. There's things thriving, but if you sit in your bubble and see things and they're not working out, they're opportunities. You just got to get creative about it. On the creative side, we were in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and passed a massive facility, brand new. It was as big as the Tesla Gigafactory in Austin. Wow. And we pulled over like, what is this? I've never seen anything this substantial. And come to find out, it was Blue Oval. It's Ford's EV battery, the lithium battery going in the new Ford vehicles. That that factory will change trade areas. So you got to get out and look at these things. You look at certain parts of very similar town, city to Amarillo, and there's things that influence and really create exciting times. You sit there and watch the state of Kentucky doing something amazing, and there's going to be neighborhoods all the way around it. There's all the service industry is going to come up, and you sit there, and if you have your head in the sand, you're going to miss out. So
Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, certainly appreciate your time. Thank you for being a part of this podcast and being our guinea pig for our first live video. So
this is cool. I'm excited and glad to be a part of it, and I appreciate all you do.
absolutely. Well, to our viewers, thank you again. You guys, we do this for you guys. We'll see you watching. We thank you for being a part of it, and stay tuned as we bring more content to you. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.